What do you do when the person you loved most leaves you with a secret that shatters your world? Emma stood frozen in her small apartment, the air heavy with the scent of rain and the echo of her own heartbeat. It had been exactly 1 month since James, her fiancé, died in a car accident, a sudden, cruel theft of the future they had planned. The wedding dress still hung in her closet, untouched, a ghost of promises unkept. She thought the worst pain was behind her, that grief was the only enemy she had to face. She was wrong. Emma had spent the last 4 weeks piecing herself together, one shaky breath at a time. Friends brought casseroles, neighbors offered condolences, and she smiled through all, pretending she was healing. But every night, alone, she'd trace the edges of James's old sweatshirt, the one he wore when they'd binge-watch movies on her couch. It still smelled faintly of his cologne. She'd close her eyes and imagine him walking through the door, laughing, promising her forever. That was her ritual until the letter arrived. It came in a plain envelope, no return address, slipped under her door like an afterthought. Emma almost ignored it, assuming it was a sympathy card from some distant acquaintance. But curiosity won, and she tore it open. The handwriting was unmistakable. Clara, James's younger sister. The words blurred as Emma read, each one a dagger. Emma, I'm so sorry. I can't keep this secret anymore. James and I, we were in love. We were planning to leave together, to start over somewhere new. He didn't know how to tell you. Emma's knees buckled. She sank to the floor, the letter trembling in her hands. James and Clara? The idea was absurd, impossible. Clara, with her quiet demeanor and shy smiles, had always been the sweet, awkward sister who'd tag along to their dinners, who'd helped Emma pick out flowers for the wedding. How could she have been hiding something so devastating? And James, her James, who'd proposed under a sky full of stars, who'd whispered, I love you, every night. How could he have betrayed her like this? She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she paced, replaying every moment of their 3-year relationship. Had it been signs? A glance between James and Clara she'd missed? A moment when his excuses for late nights seemed too vague? Her mind spiraled, stitching together fragments of memory into a tapestry of doubt. By morning, she was exhausted but resolute. She needed answers. She needed to face Clara. The drive to Clara's house felt endless, the rain pounding against her windshield like a drumbeat of dread. Clara lived in a small cottage on the edge of town, a place Emma had visited countless times for family dinners and game nights. Now it felt like enemy territory. When Clara opened the door, her face paled. Emma, she whispered, stepping back. You got my letter. Why? Emma's voice cracked, raw with emotion. Why would you write that? Why would you lie about something so cruel? Clara's eyes filled with tears. It's not a lie. I wish it was. I loved him, Emma. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. We were going to tell you after the holidays. He was going to leave. Emma's chest tightened, her breath shallow. Leave me? For you? Clara, you're his sister. Not by blood, Clara said softly, her voice breaking. Our parents adopted me when I was 2. You didn't know. The revelation hit Emma like a second blow. She hadn't known. James had never mentioned it, and Clara had always just been his sister. The room spun as Emma tried to process this. Not siblings by blood, but still raised as family. The betrayal felt even uglier now, a tangled mess of love and loyalty twisted beyond recognition. I hated myself for it, Clara continued, her voice barely above a whisper. But James, he said he felt alive with me in a way he didn't with you. We were going to move to Seattle, start over. He was going to tell you, I swear. But then the accident. Emma wanted to scream, to throw something, to make Clara feel the weight of her pain. But she was too stunned too hollowed out. Instead, she asked, "Why tell me now? Why not let me grieve in peace?" "Because I'm pregnant," Clara said, her hands trembling as she touched her stomach. "It's his. I couldn't keep lying, not when his child is inside me." The world tilted. Emma stumbled back, gripping the doorframe. A child. James's child. Not hers. Not the one they dreamed of naming after his grandfather. Clara's. The sister he'd loved in secret. The one he'd chosen over her. Emma's vision blurred with tears, and she fled the cottage, the rain soaking her as she ran to her car. She drove aimlessly for hours, the letter crumpled in her passenger seat. Her mind churned with questions. How could she love someone who'd lied so completely? How could she mourn a man who'd planned to abandon her? And Clara, how could she face her again, knowing she carried James's legacy? It was late afternoon when Emma pulled over at a small park, the same one where James had proposed. She sat on a bench, the rain finally slowing to a drizzle. That's when she saw Hyman, an older man, maybe in his 60s, sitting nearby, feeding pigeons. He looked at her with kind eyes and asked, "You okay, miss? You look like you're carrying the world." Emma didn't know why, but she told him everything. The words poured out: James's death, Clara's confession, the baby. The man listened quietly, nodding, his face etched with empathy. When she finished, he said, "I lost my wife years ago. Found out after she passed that she'd been saving money to leave me. Hurt like hell. But you know what? I forgave her. Not for her sake, but for mine. Holding on to that pain, it's like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die." His words lingered with Emma as she drove home. Forgiveness felt impossible, but the idea of letting go, of freeing herself from the weight of betrayal, sparked something inside her. She didn't want to be defined by James's choices, by Clara's secrets. She wanted to reclaim her life. Over the next few weeks, Emma made small, deliberate steps. She packed away James's things, donating his clothes, and keeping only a photo of them laughing on a IKEA memory untainted by lies. She wrote Clara a letter, not to absolve her, but to acknowledge the truth and wish her well with the child. She didn't send it, not yet, but writing it felt like loosening a knot in her chest. One evening, Emma found herself at a local art class, something she'd always wanted to try, but never had time for with James. As she dipped her brush in paint, she felt a flicker of joy, fragile but real. The instructor, a kind woman named Lily, noticed her quiet focus and said, "You've got a spark, Emma. Don't let anyone dim it." Emma smiled, tears pricking her eyes. She wasn't healed, not entirely. The scars of James's betrayal and Clara's confession would always be there. But she was learning to live with them, to build something new from the ashes of her old life. She thought of the man at the park, his words about forgiveness, and realized he was right. Letting go wasn't about erasing the pain, it was about choosing to move forward, to find light in the darkness. As she painted, Emma imagined a future where she wasn't defined by loss or lies. A future where she could love again, trust again, not because the past was forgotten, but because she was stronger than it. And in that moment, under the soft glow of the studio lights, she felt the first stirrings of hope, a promise that she could rebuild one brushstroke at a time.